The transaction terminal beeped softly as Elsa transferred the final credits. Her luminescent blue skin flickered with nervous energy, casting dancing shadows across the sterile walls of the Interstellar Marriage Bureau. Across the galaxy, humans had become the most sought-after companions, not for their strength or intelligence, but for something the advanced species had lost millennia ago. "Contract complete," the AI administrator announced. "Your human spouse will arrive within 3 cycles." Elsa's homeworld, Carathia, had achieved what her people considered perfection. They had engineered away disease, extended lifespans to centuries, and eliminated all inefficiencies. But somewhere in their relentless pursuit of optimization, they had engineered away something else, the ability to feel deeply. Emotions became muted whispers. Connections felt hollow. The Kirathians could think brilliantly, but could barely remember what it meant to truly feel. Then they discovered humanity, a species still raw, unrefined, burning with chaotic emotions that made no logical sense. Humans cried at sunsets. They laughed at absurdities. They created art about pain and sang songs about loss. To the Kirathians, humans were beautifully, impossibly alive. The spouse program had emerged from this fascination. Wealthy Kirathians could legally contract with humans willing to leave Earth for a new life among the stars. It was marketed as cultural exchange, but everyone knew the truth. The Kirathians were buying something they could no longer generate themselves. 3 cycles later, John stepped off the transport ship. He was unremarkable by human standards. Average height, brown hair perpetually tousled, and a crooked smile that suggested he found something amusing about the universe itself. He carried a single worn backpack and wore clothes that had seen better days. Elsa had expected someone polished, someone who understood the gravitas of a 5-year contracted marriage worth more credits than most humans saw in a lifetime. Instead, John looked around the gleaming spaceport and whistled. "Fancy," he said, his first word to his contractual wife. Their assigned habitat was luxurious by any standard, climate-controlled, filled with amenities, overlooking one of Carathia's bioluminescent gardens. John dropped his backpack and immediately walked to the window. "Your sky is pink," he observed. "It's our atmosphere's composition," Elsa explained, her voice modulated and precise. "The dual suns refract through—" "It's beautiful," John interrupted, and something in his voice made Elsa pause. The first weeks were awkward. Elsa had studied human customs extensively, but John defied every pattern. He didn't follow schedules. He cooked meals that smelled strange and tasted even stranger, insisting she try each one. He asked questions that seemed pointless. "What's your favorite sound? If you could be any kind of weather, what would you be?" Carathians didn't think in such terms. They had forgotten how. But John was patient. When Elsa struggled to explain what she hoped to gain from their arrangement, he simply nodded. "You want to remember how to feel," he said. It wasn't a question. "We have records," Elsa replied. "Ancient texts describing emotions we no longer experience. Love, wonder, grief. They're just words to us now." John studied her with those impossibly expressive human eyes. "They're not just words, Elsa. They're the stuff that makes life worth living." He started small. He'd play music, actual instrumental music that humans still created by hand, and ask her what images it conjured. He'd tell jokes, terrible puns that made no logical sense, just to see if she'd react. He'd cook meals not for sustenance, but for the experience of sharing them. Slowly, something began to shift. One evening, John prepared a dish he called comfort food from Earth. Nothing sophisticated, just pasta with a simple sauce. But as they ate, he told her about his grandmother who taught him the recipe, about the kitchen with the creaky floor, about the laughter that used to fill that small space. Elsa felt something strange. A tightness in her chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the food's temperature. "John," she whispered, I think that's sadness. For something I never experienced but can somehow miss." His crooked smile softened. "That's empathy. You're feeling for my loss. For my grandmother who's gone. That's what makes us human. That we can feel for each other." The revelation hit Elsa like a photon burst. Her people had thought they could observe emotions, study them, purchase proximity to them. But emotions weren't commodities. They weren't experiences you could acquire through transaction. They emerged from connection, from vulnerability, from caring about someone else's joy and pain as much as your own. As the months progressed, Elsa discovered emotions she'd only read about. She felt anxiety when John took risks. Pride when he solved problems with that peculiar human creativity. Amusement at his jokes, frustration at his stubbornness. And something else. Something deeper that grew each time he looked at her with those warm eyes that saw not a contract, but a person. The contract specified 5 years, but Elsa realized with stunning clarity that time was meaningless. John hadn't taught her to feel by being a purchased commodity. He'd done it by being himself, genuine, flawed, spontaneously human, by treating her not as a client, but as someone worth knowing, worth caring for. One evening, as they watched Carathia's pink sky fade to deep violet, John took her hand. The gesture was simple, requiring no words, yet it communicated volumes. "You know," Elsa said quietly, her voice carrying newfound warmth, "when the contract ends, you're free to return to Earth. The credits are yours regardless." John squeezed her hand gently. "Funny thing about feelings, Elsa. Once you have them, you can't just switch them off. And I'm feeling like maybe this was never really about the contract at all." Elsa's skin flickered with light. Not nervousness this time, but something else. Something that made her chest ache in the most wonderful way. She'd paid for a human spouse, seeking to purchase what her people had lost. Instead, she'd found something no credit transfer could ever buy. Someone who chose to stay not because of the deal, but despite it. In the end, humanity's greatest export wasn't their emotions. It was their ability to awaken emotions in others. To remind ancient, perfect species that imperfection wasn't something to engineer away, it was the very thing that made existence meaningful. And as the twin suns set over Carathia, 2 people from different worlds sat together, connected not by contracts, but by something far more binding, the choice to feel, together, whatever came next. The deal had ended the moment something real began.